person, the person who wrote the book, you know, this book is based on, or whatever these classes are based on, is like Tirza said, that's the only book that I go for inspiration right now in this really hard time. As well as Yehudis as well was like, she was better yesterday during the debate than today, or a few other people. So I am really excited to open the floor to Goldie and let her introduce herself.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to just make sure that everyone can hear me. Yes? Okay. So I'm both apprehensive and excited. Apprehensive simply because I don't know really some of the people that I'm speaking to. I also don't see their faces, so I don't know if I'll be able to imagine the feedback, but I am happy and appreciative of whoever's face I do see. So hopefully you'll give me some feedback, either that if it's getting boring, you'll just close your eyes, or if it's interesting, you'll keep your eyes open and I'll take that as feedback. I'm also apprehensive because of the introduction that Hani gave for me, but I'm more excited than apprehensive. And the reason why I'm excited is because Serenity is one of my favorite topics to talk about. I would say it's like, I was thinking about it before as I was preparing for this class, and I was thinking that it's like talking about chocolate. I enjoy having it, I enjoy sharing it, and I'll even be willing to I'm even willing to put an effort to get it. And when I get it, I know that I have something really good. So Serenity, how did I get to Serenity? How did I get to the topic? I guess it was something I was looking for. Maybe I was missing it. Not maybe, I was in certain areas. And then certain challenges in my life really propelled me to look for it. And through the work I've done personally, I've sort of compiled information and created a series of classes on the topic of serenity. And I gave a mini course on this a couple of times. I don't do too often because I am busy. But I always begin my course by inviting the people that are coming with me on this course to join me on the journey to the island of serenity. And I try to get us all to really imagine and visualize that place, that island. We're on a practical level. There are no phones and no lists and no worries. And on an internal level, our mind is quiet, our heart is at peace. And through the course, I really give different classes on what the purpose of serenity is, what it gives us, how having serenity totally changes our life. And we learn about emotions, thoughts, perspectives, ways to stay in balance. And by the time I'm done, I would say that we've discussed a whole bunch of ideas that we can put into a toolbox to really pull out at different times of our life. So that's the course. But there's the course, and then there's life. And life sometimes has pain. And sometimes there's real, deep, heavy pain. And yes, we can use tools, and the tools can mitigate the pain. They can help us feel lighter. They can help us make it through the day. But sometimes it feels like the tools are just not enough. It can be the pain of what's going on in the world and how we're affected by it. Sometimes it's a personal connection to people that are affected. Sometimes it's just a sense of anxiety in the world. And then aside from what's going on in the world, in our personal lives, we're living in unprecedented times. We say it's the times right before Mashiach, and there's just a lot of pain out there. And it could sometimes be just the lonely pain of challenging relationships, health issues, mental health issues, emotional issues, and which brings us to today's subtopic. So on the email that I got, I heard, I read that it was about serenity, but really it's internalizing love as an antidote to pain. That's really what it is. And what is it really all about? And as I was preparing, I was reminded of a very interesting scenario. I was trying to think, what's the analogy that would really, help us begin to explore this topic? So I was remembering that as a child, there was a classmate that I had who I wasn't particularly friendly. I wasn't a close friend of hers, but we were friendly. And one Sunday afternoon, she invited me for a play date to her house. And when I came to her house, I had an experience that was something that I'll always remember. So I walked into her house, and as we come in, I see a table with a pretty tablecloth and two placemats set out with full cutlery and really nicely said, and 2 drinks, and this is like something very interesting to me. And from the first moment on, I just had this experience of her mother completely doting over us. It was like, what kind of eggs do you like? And actually, it was the first time I was exposed to the word sunny side up. Because to me, there were scrambled eggs. That were the kind of eggs, and you could have it with salt, without salt. There were different ways of making it, but we didn't have that kind of variety. And my experience was not that type of experience. It was something that was really interesting to me. Only until I got older did I hear that she was an only child of parents that waited for a long time to have a child. So there was something that was unique. All parents give and love, but that real deep quality of something that's in the ear that just can't be missed, that's something I experienced in that home at that moment. And yet, even though that was something really, really special, I'll just tell you that that's not a good analogy of God's love for us. God's love for us is way, way, way more than the love of a parent of an only child. And if we could learn to tap into that love and absorb it in our lives, we can find it therapeutic, we can find it restorative, and we can just find it transformative. And we'll talk about this a little bit more. Second. So I'm sure you might be wondering, why are we focusing on God's love for us at this point of the year? It's nice, God's love, relationship. It's always nice to talk about it, but isn't this the time of the year when we should be talking about something else? The high holidays are coming up. And shouldn't we be having classes now about the to-do list? What do we need to be doing in these days? Oh, okay, I know there's something about making an accounting, let's do some repentance. Let's make a list of the things we need to do, we shouldn't do. Shouldn't we just be focusing on doing the right thing? What's the next right action that I should be taking? And I want to say, yes, we can focus on that. We can do the next right thing. We'll check them off our list, do all the things we need to do, and we can actually even put a check plus. But this particular time of the year, the month prior to the high holidays, is the month of Elul. And Elul is an acronym for Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, which means I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me. It is all about relationship. It is all about, how do I feel towards God? How does God feel towards me? And can I internalize it? So today, we will hear about God's love for us, its power, uniqueness, and how focusing on all of this can really propel us forward. And what if I don't feel the love? What if I don't feel that depth? What if I can't absorb it? What if it's not meaningful to me? I want you to know that's our next class. So today we're not going to deal with the what if. Today we're just going to talk about, what is this about? Why is it so powerful? What can it do for us? And what can we do for it? And next time we'll do the second part. So this whole concept of God's love for us and its power became very clear to me through the work I do with people, and also through my own life. So first, let me talk about the work I do with people. I'm a director of special education in a school, and in that capacity, I meet with parents of children who may be struggling with a lot of things. Not only their special needs child, they may have multiple issues going on, and they may just have life as the backdrop for whatever they're experiencing. People, and there's pain in relationships, there's pain that's just internal, that's part of our process. And then there's us, there's my life, my friend's life, my sister's life. It's something that I bump into very, very, very frequently. And while working with people and while experiencing my own life, I have the sense that if only this person, and again for myself it's the same, could experience love, that would be so uplifting, so powerful, so amazing, so beautiful. And can we experience it, or can we always experience it? Yes, we can. Not in the way that we might be looking for it. And I'll just say that for me personally, I just remember once being at a weekend retreat, a Shabbaton, with a group of people that were experiencing something that I was, part of that support group. It was a time of my life when I was going through something. And it could be that it was the time of my life. And that's why this, had an impact on me. Was about 7 principles of God's relationship with us. And I just remember, like, it's funny to use the cliche and say I had an epiphany, but that's really what happened. I was sitting at that class and thinking, wow, this is amazing. It means anything that I really want from the next person, I really can have from God. I can have love. I can have connection. I can feel looked at. I can feel heard. I can feel supported. That is like, and it's reliable. It's never ending, and it's always. This brings us now to the source of this class. And Khani started talking about Aish Kodesh, but I just want to give you a little bit of background because I feel like I'm connected to this in a different way. So my daughter, who's 20 now, spent a year in Israel in seminary, and she came home and she was talking about her experience. Of course, it's uplifting and beautiful, and everything she learned was like, wow, amazing. And if you've ever touched base with any seminary girl, you might know what kind of conversations she was looking to have, which is just like repeating things she had heard and this rabbi and that rabbi. But she kept on going back to one of her rabbis, we called him Rabbi Kahane, in seminary, who taught her on the topic. He was speaking about the weekly portion. He met, he had them once a week as a class on the weekly portion, but his subject seemed to be constantly be going back to suffering and pain and how we can go through the pain. And in the conversations I was having with my daughter, she told me, and it's all based on the writings of the Piaseczner Rebbe, another name, he was called the Aish Kodesh, who was a leader in the Warsaw Ghetto. And I was always intrigued by the writings of the Piaseczner Rebbe because of his story. What's his story? Here's a person that was a leader of a tremendous amount of people during the time right before the war. And he's a person who's experienced pain that we can't fathom. He lost one parent when he was very young. I should have really looked back to the history, but I only remember reading the biography a while ago. I think it was like he lost his father when he was 3 and his mother when he was older. And then he lost his wife when he was very young. And then, of course, the backdrop of what was going on in pre-war Europe and then war-torn Europe, to the point where his whole community was transferred to the Warsaw Ghetto. And at that point where he was in the Warsaw Ghetto, he lost his only child and a sister-in-law, and he was left bereft. But yet he found it within himself. He found the strength within himself by connecting to God and to his teachings to really be able to be a source of strength to others. And the specific writing that I'm talking about, he published one thing on his own, but most of what he wrote, he didn't publish. And the specific writing that I'm talking about, the book called Aish Kodesh, is something that's based on discourses that he gave on Shabbos, on the Sabbath, to his people. And after the Sabbath was done, he would sit and write it down on paper. And he actually rolled it up and put it into glass jars. It's like the stuff of stories, and this is the story. So he put these things into glass jars and he buried it in the Warsaw Ghetto where he was, underneath the ground. And then the end of the story was that, we know the whole story of the Warsaw Ghetto, how, there was an uprising and he was he was from the people that actually survived it, was led to concentration camps, and he met his death, unfortunately, there, leaving no children. But these writings were actually hidden until I think the 60s, when somebody was doing construction in the area. And lo and behold, they see this interesting thing, these glass jars with writings in them. And they took it out and realized it was Hebrew writings and forwarded it to the right people. And this is the story of Aish Kodesh, which had so much depth, but it's not only the depth. He was able to understand the emotional turmoil that people were experiencing. And it almost seems like the words that he wrote were prophetic, because I don't know how many people were so in touch with emotions then, but his writings are so in touch with emotions that, sometimes when you read something and you hear like, oh, this is what you should do if you're experiencing pain, or that's what you should do if you're experiencing pain, and you just feel like they don't get it. But when you read his stuff, you feel like he gets it. He totally gets it. He gets the anger, he gets the frustration, he gets the pain. And yet He has directives of how to get through it and how to use our relationship with God to give us so much that we can really feel empowered and we can really get a new lease on life. And so interestingly, this past summer, I was in Israel and I was there, thank God, for the wedding of my son, which was very exciting. And the day before I was ready to leave, I was on my way, knew I was going to be spending the 12 hours on a flight back to New York. And I am not a traveler that falls asleep at all. So I stopped into the bookstore and I was just looking for something meaningful to take back with me on the flight. And guess what I find there? I walk into the store. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but let me try to show it to you. And I come across this book. Okay. And this book is called A Fire in the Darkness. And underneath it, the bylines is guidance. And I love the words. And I'm just reading it. And before I even read further, I already know I like it. I happen not to have recognized the picture on the cover of the Piaseczner Rebbe. I did. I read it. And not only did I read it, but I actually spoke about it to whoever I got a chance to. Ice cream house in the summer one morning for breakfast. I told her, this is the book you gotta get. You have to get this book. I love it. And I was so excited about the book that without realizing that I'm getting myself into something, I told her, I want to teach it. It's such good stuff, and I don't feel like it's available for people. So she said, so do you want to teach it? And I said, yes. But I didn't realize that I was putting myself into something because preparing for this class, was more than just opening up the book. But still, I'm really, really, really excited to be sharing this with you. And just to give you a little tiny little taste of the book, I'm going to ask you to bear with me while I just read to you 3 paragraphs from chapter 2 on the topic of Does Hashem Love Me? And then I won't read anymore. But I think that's going to give you a little bit of a sense of what the book is about. Now, I know some people tune out reading, so I'm going to ask you to tune in. Just tune in for a second. If you need to, close your eyes and listen to the words and allow it to penetrate to the deepest part of you that is, that's open to this penetration. So it says, and I want you to know that this book, if you ever buy it, for every word or sentence that it says, there's a proof underneath it. There's our sources. It's sourced in different books of sages and there's many different sources. So it's not like he's writing his own thing. And what I did just to feel confident in the work is I actually went back to some of those sources just to see it and say that, okay, I get it. It's totally true. So, and one more thing I want to say is that besides the fact that I sort of trust the sources, I trust the words because I know it on my own skin that this is true. And I think that if you open yourself up to it, you'll feel the same way. So I'm going to interchange, the words Hashem and God for people that are comfortable with one or the other, but, the book uses the word Hashem. So does God love me? Have you ever wondered whether God loves you? He certainly loves the Jewish nation. He took them out of Egypt and gave them the Torah. He called them chosen and treasured. But does he love me as an individual? Yes. He loves every individual Jew with a boundless, unending love. He is infinite, so his love is infinite, and consequently, his love is the deepest, most real, most genuine love that could ever be felt. There is literally no end to how much he loves you. And his love depends on nothing. He loves you because he loves you, not because of what you do, and not because of what you achieve, just because he loves you. He has never stopped and never will stop loving you, even if you've done wrong. Even in your worst times, he never stopped loving you. Even if you were doing the worst things, he loved you while you were doing it. He was even with you while you were doing it. He has never left your side and will never, ever stop loving you. So for me, I sometimes feel like reading something like that is like a spiritual massage. It just massages my heart and does something to loosen things up. So let's just discuss, let's make some comparisons and some differentiations between God's love for us and the love we have in other relationships. So aside from everything we've just read, that it's unending, let's just look at some sources. We know, first of all, that God loved us before we did anything to deserve his love. The verse, that's a famous verse that just captures God's love for us, is actually a verse that was told to us before we actually received the Torah. And that is, Ahavti eschem amar Hashem. Hashem said, I love you. It's actually a verse in the Torah. God said he loves us before we did anything. There were no commandments yet to do, and yet he loved us. Another source of God's love for us is in one of the famous books called Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. And interestingly, in that book, God's love to us is compared to many different things. In one place, it's compared to the love between a husband and a wife who truly love each other. In another place, it's compared to a friend and a friend. And in another place, it's compared to the words that are used are achaisi rayasi, my sister, my friend. And what is this sister? What is this word of sister? And it's brought down from the Aranayim that there are different levels of connection in our relationship with God. And there are many different words that are used, but this word, my sister, my friend, what does it mean? It's the concept that we know, blood is thicker than water. I can be angry at my sister. I can feel like she's not doing enough or is doing enough. I can have all different kinds of thoughts, but she's still my sister. She's always my sister. I can never divorce my sister. I don't want to, by the way. I'm good sisters. But that concept of God's calling us a sister, that's one level of love. And then just to understand how God relates to us, isn't it complicated to understand? What is God's relationship with us? I mean, he's interested in us. Is he interested in making sure everything is perfect for us? Like, isn't some of what we're interested in so petty? And isn't some of what we want like so not important? So why does he actually make the sun shine for us? Is it so important to have a sun shining? Is it so important to actually make that bus? But just like when a father sits down on the floor to connect with that 2-year-old child, and I'm sure you've maybe seen it or experienced it yourself. Like you have that child and the child's making all different kinds of gurgling sounds, and the father or the mother is there on the floor making those gurgling sounds. Or the father is moving the car and making those sounds with the little car, right? We know that even though the father is not on the level of the child, he doesn't relate to or enjoy the same thing, but he contains himself. He almost makes himself small because he loves his child. The same is with God. We find favor in his eyes, and he loves us so much that he can sort of make himself small in order to relate with us. And that level, also, that kind of level of relationship, just like when you have, I mean, one of the examples that I remember coming home from the hospital with that newborn baby, and there's a night, and luckily I did have a nap during the day, so I wasn't so tired. And the baby's crying, and it's 2 o'clock in the middle of the night. And I'm actually not tired, and I'm holding the baby in my hand and just looking at the baby who's doing nothing special, but I feel like, whoa, this is bliss. I love this baby for absolutely no reason. That's the relationship that God has with us, that he just loves us, he adores us, and he puts himself into a position, kaviyachol, of containing himself so that he can relate to us just because from that place of intense love. So going back to that starting point of the fact that I speak to people and they're very often experiencing just different levels of pain, I feel like if we had a way to be able to tap in to this experience of love from God, to be able to feel it really in our bones, in our veins, in our blood, to be able to like sit still and like you can try this sometimes, like take your thumb and put it onto like the inside of your wrist and feel your pulse. I feel like God's just my body as a way of saying he believes in me, trusts in me, he has a plan for me, he's here for me. So whatever it is for you to be able to experience it, but if we could tap into that experience, real ultimate love, I think it would be more helpful than anything. I think it would be more empowering than anything else we might experience. And again, this is something that I can say, I've experienced on my own. Like, it used to be that I would have this list of things I needed from God, but over time I've learned it's not what I need. If I could just experience Him in my life, I already have everything that I need. So what do we want to do with all this? We want to find ways, practical ways to allow ourselves to experience this. We want to find ways to really have that experience of love flowing through our body. And however you have that experience, every person is different. Every person has different tools that work for them. I personally find that for me, visualization is a big tool. It's a type of, way of meditating. And I'll just give you one practical example of how I experience this. Sometimes I'm lying in bed and I want to be falling asleep. I have a full day of work tomorrow, but I'm just finding myself not able to relax. Maybe there are things in my mind, maybe there are things in my heart, and I want to just get to that relaxed place. And I'll very often use a visualization that's in songs of Kagamai Alai Imai. I'm like a little baby in the hands of my mother. I try to go back to that experience, like with closed eyes, see myself as just a little baby in the embrace of a mother. And to be able to somehow take that and stretch that to the parallel of feeling like I can relax into the embrace of God and feel secure that I can go to sleep because He's up managing my life and we don't both need to be up all night. He can be up and I can go to sleep. And somehow adding that visual component of seeing myself as a baby in God's hands, is powerful for me. Another thing that I can share, and again, people have tried this in different ways, is to find a way to experience this when you're in nature, because nature has its own power that actually God put into it to allow us to experience Him. So when you're in a place of nature, whether you're just on your porch and you're seeing a beautiful tree, or whether you're actually in a gorgeous place, like, I sometimes have the opportunity during the summer to sit at the beach and to really feel the sand and the water. So when you're in that place, any amount of nature, if you could just either close your eyes or if you can visualize without closing your eyes and experience the goodness around you as God's way of interacting with you and speaking to you and giving you messages and feeling that all the gifts around you are really personally sent to you. And you can just close your eyes and feel the warmth of the sun and take it all in as God sending me His messages of warmth and support and care. And I believe in you and you can do it, and take it all in, whatever talks to you. But if you can find sort of a text you can be telling yourself as coming from God. So these are just that's one way you can experience it. Another strategy that's maybe a little bit more practical, and some people can, the other type of learners can relate to it, would be that when you relate to God practically as if He's close to you, you can begin feeling the closeness. Sometimes you need to first take the action and then you'll feel it inside of you. So one of the things that's interesting that our sages have created is that in prayer, as well as in the blessings that we make, when we talk to God, we talk to Him in second person. We say, Baruch Ata, blessed are you. And what's the reason for this? Because really, actually, I would only say you if I'm talking to someone right in front of me. I don't say you if no one's in the room, right? So when I'm talking to God, I'm saying, blessed are you, it's my opportunity to actually say, oh, you're here, and to actually allow myself to experience it. So when I read this, I was thinking, let me try to do this. While I say the word, and then I don't think I can do this all the time, but sometimes when I say the word, blessed are you, Baruch Ata, to say it, in other words, to relate to God as if He's right here with me in the room. And I'm sure there are others, maybe, after I'm done, I'll open it up to other strategies that can help you experience love. But whatever it is, to put something into your day that allows you to experience it, because it's here for the taking, it's here for you. And then you might wonder, okay, I'm feeling all this love. What can I do with all this love? What do I do with it? So in order to keep a relationship going, yes, we definitely want to experience the love, but we also want to reciprocate because that keeps the relationship going. That's just how healthy relationships go. I get and I give, right? So I feel this love, and just like water reflects a heart to a heart, right? So I feel it, and now I'm ready to give it. And I can turn to God instead of just turning to Him in service. I could turn to Him in love. I want to reciprocate, and I want to give Him something from a place of relationship. And it reminds me of like something that, like an experience, a tiny little experience that happened at work, where I was sitting at my office, and there's someone that works with me for a very, very long time. So we have a relationship that's really, strong. And she came in and she was looking for coffee, and there was no coffee anymore in the office. The coffee had been finished, and she needed to go into her classroom, and she went in. And in my mind, I knew she needs a coffee. So I figured I'm going to find the coffee for her. So I'm on the first floor. I went up to the third floor, and I made her coffee, and I know how she likes it. And I came into her classroom, and I gave her the coffee, and I said, "Here, this is for you." And there was something very powerful in the exchange. It was like sort of a concentrated, "This is something I'm doing for you." And I was thinking that if we can give to God, and we experience His love, and we can reciprocate from that perspective, and say, "Here, God, this is for you," in something that we're already anyway doing. Like I was thinking, if I give charity, I very often get sidetracked, and I'm giving charity, and I might even be saying something like, "It should be for the merit of whatever. It should help me with this and this." Like if I can take a moment and say, "Hey, God, this is for you. It's for our relationship." I can either say it in words or in thoughts. But if I can add that to some action, if I connect those words to some action, I'm going to be perpetuating that feeling of love that I could experience. We want to keep the relationship going. We want to allow ourselves to feel the love, and we want to bring it up in ourselves. And in general, this relationship is important to us because it's a dependable, stable force in our lives. And we want to just keep it going in whatever way we work on any relationship. If I have a new sister-in-law, if I have a new neighbor, and I make a decision that, or a new daughter-in-law like I have, right? And I make a decision, I want to invest in the relationship. How do I invest? Well, I invest in thought, speech, and action. I invest by thinking positive thoughts, which very often comes naturally if you have a relationship you're motivated for. But I actually do think. I say nice words. I try to find opportunities to say something nice, and to say it with more words rather than less words. And then I might, find an action I can take to really enhance our relationship. And the same would be true in our relationship with God. It's what kind of thoughts do I want to have? And that would go back to the previous, points that I brought out. Like, how can I experience God in my thoughts and in my speech? It could be whatever works for you. For some people, it's just doing that. Here, this is for you, God. For some people, it's turning to Him in prayer, and for some people, it's turning to Him in conversation. Like, "God, I just want to tell you, this is what's going on for me. Could you just hear my point? This is what I want to tell you." Have that real, honest relationship, and that's a way to perpetuate it. And then action. Send a little gift. Do something small, whatever works for you, but just as a way of keeping it going. So really, there's lots more to say, and I'm sure each of you, can have something to add in terms of what works for you. And for now, just to close, I would like to ask each of us, if either if you want to choose a thought to hold on to, or a time of the day that you want to allow yourself to experience it, or something you want to do to actively seek out your relationship. And I would just open it up again. I know people are not always so excited to share on Zoom, but if anyone is willing and able to share something they want to sort of hold on to from the thoughts that we just explored. And I'll be the first to start off. I do want to try to put into my day this once a day to say, "Here, God, this is for you." And I think that would be, for me, something that might enhance my relationship. So first of all, thank you all for being here. But I'm just wondering if any of you would share or discuss what you're taking home.
I could share. I think it's so, relevant. As you said, it's, the month of Elul where God is so close to us. He's in the fields with us. He comes to visit us in our homes. And like what you're talking about, which really resonated with me, which is something that I'm trying to focus on this month, is really bringing God into the everyday life. We're going to come to the month of the high holidays, and we'll go to synagogue, and we'll hopefully stop a little bit of our lives, take a pause and think and, and pray and focus on the holy days. But this is the month where it's a regular month. We're doing our daily lives. We're not stopping, for any holidays. But at the same time, we want to show God, like, oh, it's not, we don't only care for you when it's the holiday time, when it's brought on to us like this. We want to prepare for that time and show that, like, our daily lives, that God matters in our daily lives, and God's in the subway, God's in the, in our house, God's in the fields, he's everywhere. And so I love that you're saying that you don't have to necessarily take something on more. It's sometimes just like focusing on what you already do, and you're already giving charity maybe, but you're just like giving it without thoughtlessly. And then I love that like pause idea, which I really want to focus on. This, exactly what you're talking about, really putting meaning into it and presence. So I really appreciate you bringing out those points.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Anyone else would want to share what they're taking home?
I'd like to share.
Okay, go ahead.
When you said Baruch Atah, and speaking to God as if present with the you, I never in all my life thought about it the way that was worded and what it might mean. And that's given me quite a bit of insight and something I'm going to have to think about more. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you for highlighting it, even for me. Thank you. Okay, and
wait,
yeah.
I just want to, we have on, and I don't know if she's going to put on her camera. So my mother's on, and I don't know if, again, if she wants to or not put on her camera, but she definitely maybe has something she can add. Or if my sister, who just got off the plane, I don't know if she has anything to add. She's listening. Ma? I think I'm going to call on someone else first if you don't unmute yourself, because I'm not sure if you're hearing this. But let me pick on Rosalie, because I'm sure you have something that you could add. Is there anything that you could add to the mix?
I so appreciate this talk, especially in the difficult matzav that we find ourselves in as Jewish people, as people of the world. But I'm thinking more personally, the concept of sharing about seeing synchronicity in what happens to us in our daily life. It's the big things, of course, and the small things. I'm reading so much about what people did to step up during 9/11. That comes out every year at the anniversary. What people in the community did, what people, throughout the different spaces where these tragedies took place. But the idea of seeing, even in our small little spaces, maybe not much is happening. Maybe we're not saving people's lives, and we're just living day to day. And to see when something happens, a small thing, to ask a simple question: why did this come to me? And if it's something good, sometimes we don't realize the good. When something bad happens, it's, oh, why is this happening to me? That's something we ask a lot about. But when the good things happen, it's, why did this come to me? Why did I happen to meet this person at this time? Why is this event coming to my doorstep? And to look into the synchronicity of it, it's hard to see the miracles in the good. We see when someone is very sick and then they're cured from cancer, that, we can see that and recognize and embrace it. But to keep ourselves connected to our neshama very deeply is even the small things, the small good things. How did this come my way? What's the blessing in this? What's the Baruch Atah in this little thing that happened? I say, wow, that's amazing. That's just so amazing. And to look into the synchronicity and see where Hashem's hand is in so many things, not just the big things, but the very little things, the pintala, the dot, and say, okay, now I understand. This is coming for a reason, and how am I going to act? How am I going to step? What is it calling on for me? And that gives us a lot of chizuk, I think, in times when it's
I forgot. Okay, Michelle. If you don't have any, yeah, I thought you'd have something.
No, I do. I just want to thank you and tell you that you just fill up my senses just listening to you and your love for God. It's beautiful, and I feel it, and it's really a gift that you're giving us, but it's a gift from God, from Hashem. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity, because anytime I speak about anything, it just brings it up more inside of me. So just preparing for this has really put me in a very good place. So thank you.
Esther Shendel, will you say anything? It's interesting seeing the black space, you know. Do you have, we'd love to hear what you have to say. As well as Ma, I know you're on. I don't know if you hear me. Or if you want to share, you don't have to put on your camera. You can just talk. We'd love to hear. I'm not sure if my mother's, she went on, but my sister's there from British Columbia. She just flew in today to spend some time with my mother. So I'm not sure if she, like, it could be, the phone could be ringing and all that. But when she,
So yes, she did add to the chat that she joined late, but really enjoyed, but I guess they're not able to share. And I think really, maybe tonight when we all go to sleep, we try to think of one visualization that we take with us just before we drift off, just tonight, to really, bring that all to our with our senses, like, what we feel and what we can imagine and visualize. And again, I thank you, Khani, for inviting me and for helping me prepare this topic, for giving me an opportunity. And I look forward to seeing you all again. I think we said in about 2 weeks, right? Less than 2 weeks.
yeah, I believe it's on a Wednesday. I'll send it,
On Tuesday,
and also
yeah.
a reminder, and also send some of the people who want to come that change. When we changed the date, it changed. Like they had something
right.
else. Shayna, I'm not sure who's Shayna. If you want to share or not, but if you do, then unmute yourself. Otherwise, I just thank you so much, Goldy, for really. It's now by you. It's 10 o'clock. It's just a breath of fresh air. And what I found, some of the things that you said sort of did a mental shift in my mind. Like things that I want to, like we have our to-do lists are like long from today till tomorrow, of things we have to do and this and that, and even preparing for the high holidays. But when you change this, just even the different things that you said, changes the whole dynamics of all that's on our plate to just a very different like dynamic, and it and a refocus. So I definitely have a lot of food for thought, and I'm really happy that you were able to do it, and I look forward to the next one as well. And thanks again, and have a good night.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night, everyone.
And thank you, Rosalie, for
Thank
that
you.
feedback.
Toda
Take
Rabba.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.